Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Reggie and I am a late diagnosed autistic person, and I make videos about my life as an autistic person. I also put other videos on my channel, like some of you have seen some of my horse riding videos. The reason I put them on is because I don't have the ability to manage more than one channel, and it's important for me to have those videos to share with my instructors so you guys can enjoy them as well. If you're new to my channel, welcome and thank you for coming. If you are not new, thank you for coming back. It's been a very, very long time since I've made a video, and the reason is that I'm not really doing well. I am now having many days where I'm not able to function. I'm having some serious health issues, and it's just part of the game. It's part of my life, and a lot of these issues are from the stresses that I endure from social stresses and sensory stresses, and they do take a lot of toll on me. I'm actually in a pretty significant burnout right now, which has lasted a very long time, and I don't know that I'm able to recover from burnouts anymore, so I'm kind of living in a state of perpetual burnout. So it's difficult for me to make videos, but I do have a lot that I want to share with you guys. So I'm just going to do my best to put a video out whenever I'm able. So thank you for your patience, and thank you for continuing to be here for me. I'm really grateful to you guys. So today, I think the video is going to be pretty short because I'm a little bit tired. But I had a really cool experience today, and this is not my first time having this experience. It just doesn't happen very often, because you'll understand why when I tell you. So there's a Facebook group that I belong to, and they do Zoom meetings, and it's a Facebook group for autistic people. So the meetings are kind of like social meetups, which are really nice. And every now and then I do attend. I don't attend as often as I would like, just because my schedule can be not quite conducive to that. But I did attend a meeting last night, and it was so cool because in these meetings we're really just socializing. There's not a ton of structure, and it's just a bunch of autistic people hanging out and just talking about whatever they want to talk about. And it really made me think, because I really struggle with socializing, and I know that a lot of autistic people do. And if I try to socialize with neurotypical people, I have a really hard time with that. It's very exhausting, it's very overwhelming, and even if I just socialize with neurotypical people for like an hour or so, I will be completely wiped out from social fatigue. And that wipeout can sometimes take multiple days, like 3, 4, 5 days to recover from. And I know that this is something that is very common in the autistic community. But I wanted to highlight the difference between what it's like for me when I socialize with neurotypical people and what it's like for me when I socialize with only autistic people. So first of all, I want to say that just because someone is autistic doesn't mean I'm going to get along with that person. There are people who are autistic that I do not get along with, just like in any group of people. It doesn't matter what your neurotype is. Some personalities will mix and some won't. And that's just being human. And that is the same thing with neurotypical people. There are some neurotypical people that I get along with really, really well. And there are some that are definitely a challenge for me. So this is not a general, absolute statement where it's either neurotypicals or autistics, because there will be times when I do have some neurotypical people that I can talk to really well and really easily. But for the majority of the time, I'm going to say about 95% of the time, when I try to socialize with neurotypical people, it's very, very difficult for me. I really, really, really struggle. And some of those struggles are in the conversation itself. Like, the subject matter can be incredibly overwhelming to me, because I just feel like I'm talking about things that I cannot relate to, that I cannot connect with. And that can be really, really hard. And that can happen a lot. Also, it's difficult for me to sometimes talk to neurotypical people, because sometimes they're not as direct as autistic people can be. And if I make a communication faux pas, or if I say something that they don't really understand or that they misconstrue, oftentimes, rather than having a really calm discussion to really try to understand what is being said, there tend to be a lot more assumptions. And there tend to be a lot more reactions to the assumptions. And then oftentimes there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of emotional, whatever. And it really does not work for me. The kind of emotional and psychological damage that I get from that is tremendous. And it's very, very difficult for me to recover. And there are conversations that I will never recover from, just because they are not in sync. They are not on the same wavelength. And that kind of, what that does to me, it actually causes a damage that manifests in a visceral response in my body. And I'm getting weaker and weaker and more vulnerable, and experiencing so many more of these visceral responses, and I just cannot seem to recover from them. And that's really taking a toll on my ability to function. So I'm not saying that neurotypical people are bad, or that they have ill intent, or that they're doing anything on purpose. It's just not a dynamic that works for me and for how my brain processes information. So I might go maybe half an hour with a neurotypical group, or 40 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour tops, and I'm done. I'm completely done. I will spend the next few days up to maybe several weeks recovering from that interaction, depending on what the conversation was about and how it went. Now I want to contrast that with the conversations that I have when I am talking to only autistic people, whether it's one autistic person or a group of autistic people. Last night we had one of those Zoom meetings, and there was no topic. It was just a general, just talk about whatever we want. And I think we started out with probably like 6 people on the call, and then some people had to go. So, because we're all over the world, so the time can be different for anyone. And so, but we ended up finishing the call with 4 people on the call. In that call, not once did we ever have awkwardness. Not once did we ever have miscommunication. Not once did we ever have a time where people were not understanding each other and not able to come to an understanding. Yeah, there were times when we're like, oh, what do you mean when you say that? Can you explain what you mean when you say this? Because we're not going to understand everything, obviously. But if anybody had trouble understanding something, all they had to do was say, oh, I don't understand. Can you help me understand? And the group was very happy to just take whatever time was needed to help the person understand. Not once was there ever a time where there was any stress or any kind of social faux pas or anything like that. It was incredibly respectful and incredibly fluid, and this conversation went on for 12 hours. And after 12 hours, I just got off the call like a few minutes ago. Not only am I not wiped out, I'm actually feeling energized. I'm actually feeling refreshed. The topics that we were talking about, some of them were pretty intense. Some of them were pretty profound. Some of them were not so intense or profound, just kind of, just normal talk. But there was never a sensation of being overwhelmed by chit chat. Normally when I'm talking to a neurotypical person, if we're just having just chit chat, meaningless chit chat, that is so debilitating for me. It is overwhelming, it is exhausting, and it is something that I just cannot handle. I just don't have the stamina for it. But when we're talking as a group of autistics, it's a very different dynamic. It's a very different energy, a very different vibe. And we were able to converse for 12 hours straight. So I wanted to say this because it's important to understand that when we talk about autistic people having social deficits, having deficits in communication, I don't actually believe that's true. Even people who are non-speaking, even people who are very high support needs, I don't believe that there is necessarily a pathological issue with communication. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean. I know that people who are non-speaking, sometimes it's difficult to understand what they're trying to express. People who are higher support needs, sometimes it's difficult for us to understand what they're trying to express, and sometimes it might be difficult for them to understand us as well. But I want to use an analogy. As you know, I do ride horses, and I know that there are times when I have a very difficult time understanding what my horse that I'm riding or that I'm with is trying to tell me. I also know that there are times when I'm trying to express something to the horse and I am confusing the heck out of him. He has no idea what I'm trying to tell him. That does not mean that he has a communication deficit, because when he is in the field with other horses, the communication is crystal clear. There are no deficits. They understand each other perfectly well. They have no problem communicating anything. It's because they speak the same language. When I come into the picture, I have to take the time to learn his language. And I have to take the time to teach him my language. Once we understand each other's languages, we have no problems communicating at all. And I think it's the same thing with us. The problem isn't that we have a deficit in communication. The problem is that we are speaking different languages. And I believe that even people who are the most difficult for us to communicate with, it's because we do not know their language. And oftentimes, rather than taking the time to learn their language or their languages, we try to force them to communicate in a way that we can understand more easily. But that doesn't always work. So I know it's hard. I'm not going to pretend it's not. I know that sometimes it seems like an impossible task. And sometimes it is. And that's okay. Because I respect that. I respect that it's not always easy. And parents who have autistic children whom they cannot understand, you have my heart, you have my sympathy, you have my support. But having said that, I don't want us to believe that they cannot be understood because of a problem that they have. I think it's important that we look at it from a different perspective and say, maybe the reason we're having trouble is because we don't know their language. And that's okay too. And so we just have to make the effort to do the very best we can to try to learn the language of other people. And that's all it is, really, I think. Now, it's hard. I'm not going to pretend it's not. And we're not always going to be successful. And that is what it is. You know, we're not perfect. We are human, and we do the very best we can. And the very best we can has to be enough, because if it is the best we have, there's nothing more than that. So we can't beat ourselves up if we don't succeed as we would want to. But I just want to throw this out there so that we can start to change our perspectives and change our thought patterns, and know that things that we might have thought were deficits, maybe they're not. Maybe it's just that we're speaking different languages. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for supporting this channel, and I will do my best to keep the videos coming. And again, sorry for the inconsistency and the long wait, but I'm struggling too, so I'll just do my very best, and hopefully you'll be okay with that. I will see you next time. Please like and subscribe.